And a good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, manager at WEIU TV and Radio. My co-host, Gerard Singleton.
Good afternoon, Jeff.
A few more weeks left with Gerard as he's heading towards graduation.
That's right.
And making a return appearance today is Angela Hampton from the Mattoon YMCA May Merriment Committee, also Vita Marketing, downtown Bradbury District. So
That's right.
all kinds of job titles for you.
I stay busy.
There you go. So you are working a lot of jobs and a lot of volunteer stuff. So you can kind of talk about where you are right now with the May Merriment and Vita Marketing.
Sure, yeah. So May Merriment, this is our 36th year for this event. And I think that it's been a really special tradition in Mattoon for many, many years. It was for many years the only real fundraising event that the Y did. The Mattoon YMCA provides over $200,000 a year in scholarships so that nobody is turned away from the Y due to an inability to pay. So that applies to programs and memberships, and it's just one of the things that makes the Y really special. About 4 or 5 years ago, we added a second fundraiser at our location in Toledo. Started out as the Spring Social and then became the Winter Social. But for May Merriment, it has remained pretty steady as far as being a little bit more of a dressy kind of gala. We have a dinner, and we brought a band back a few years ago. And we have a live auction and a silent auction. And this year, actually, we're returning to a little bit of a theme because every year we hear it's on the same day as the Kentucky Derby, right? And so we thought this year, why not capitalize on that? So we're going to have a Derby pre-party and have the races going, and we're going to have a hat contest and some friendly guessing games for a nice bottle of 12-year Pappy. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then Vita Marketing, talk about that new venture for you.
Yeah, sure. So I actually, it was just sort of born of a need that I saw in my friends who were small business owners back in 2018 or so. I had some great friends who bought a meat market you might know of in Mattoon, and I said, hey, I think you guys are doing an amazing thing. Let me know if you need help. And it sort of snowballed from there and really focused on building strong, organic social media strategies for small businesses because, in any economy, small businesses have small marketing and advertising budgets, right? So I really enjoy the creativity involved in coming up with a strategy that builds loyalty behind the people behind the business. You know, that anyone can say shop small. Yeah, it's important to support small businesses. But I think when we connect to the people behind those businesses, that's really where the secret sauce is. And so it really kind of grew over the years. And I have a wide variety of businesses that I get to work with. And then, of course, Mattoon's seen a lot of growth with Emerald Acres.
True.
It's exciting. But it was also kind of scary to some of our small business owners.
Yep.
When you are a mom and pop shop and you're competing with some of the amazing nationally recognized brands that we now have at the interstate, that can be intimidating.
And also, I think when you couple that with now, they're going to have more demand sometimes on weekends.
Absolutely.
When there's 3,000 or 4,000 extra people in town. They're going to shop, and so there's a lot of different things to talk about.
And we need each other, right?
Yeah.
It's great for Mattoon to have these beautiful facilities attracting new folks, but they need us to have a robust downtown local commerce happening because, when you go on vacation, you don't want to go to McDonald's, right? You want to find the best local Mexican place or whatever. Right. So the Broadway District was born of that idea. How can we connect our resources and collaborate and start building up our downtown and drawing people in?
There you go.
Yeah, the social media aspect is really interesting to me because in class recently we've been learning about the digital media analytics sides of things, and I find it really interesting. Now, is it just limited to social spaces like Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok and stuff like that, or do you expand to like websites? Because I've been learning about the benefits of like the Google My Business page.
Yeah. Oh man, it's interesting that you brought that up. I just had a conversation with somebody last week, and I said Google Business is the most underrated
It's so good.
platform because when you're talking about organic or free marketing, that's where you need to be. You can post on Google My Business just like you can on Facebook and Instagram. You can You can share pictures, you can share links, and the more active you are there, the more likely Google is going to give you improve your organic SEO, your search engine optimization, right?
And it even compounds when it's local. So now when someone is in the area and then they search restaurants in Mattoon, Illinois, and that local business will pop up depending on how well optimized that page is. And 100%. I think it's a really useful tool, and I think a lot of businesses kind of limit themselves just to social media, whereas that's an easy way to set it up.
Right, and it's free.
Yeah,
right?
I think you just go in and claim it, right? They make you one.
Claim your business, and then you can. I think it's just one of those things. I always say that small businesses there's a lack of time, lack of money, lack of knowledge. There's some combination of those three barriers. And so I try to get to the bottom of that. If some of them may not know Google Business exists, or they may, but they don't know how to get there. So
what if somebody's out there listening or watching right now and they want to know how to, that interests me. How do they start?
Oh, as far as doing their own social media or Google Business. So you can actually, if you simply Google, claim my Google Business page, it will take you to a link. So if you search a business that is already in existence, it will have a little red sentence there that says something like claim this business or is this your business? And you can often get in that way too. Yeah. But if it's a new business, or for example, I have a couple that I work with who owns a condo in Florida. And so they are turning that condo, they're making a Google Business page for that condo. So if somebody is searching beautiful 2-person condo in Marco Island, Florida, they're more likely to pop up there. Yeah, and cool. Google will really kind of walk you through that.
Yeah. And it is kind of, it's simpler than I would have imagined. Yeah. And I think that is a very useful tool for small businesses to have.
It really is.
Let's go ahead and give a little bit more details about the May Merriment date, time, and all that stuff, and how people can get involved.
Yeah, so May Merriment is Saturday, May 3rd. This year, doors open at 4 o'clock, so we're going to have a little pre-party, and bars will be open. We always have a great time working with Carl Wolf at Gateway Liquors here in Charleston. He's just helpful. He's got a great team, so he's got some special things planned. And then we'll watch the races. People will kind of trickle in. We usually have dinner around 6 o'clock. This year, the Kentucky Derby is at 5:57, so we'll kind of be watching that. Then we'll go into dinner, and then around 7:15 or so, we start the live auction. Nick Spracklin from Pana is going to be our auctioneer again this year. Cool thing about Nick, if you are car people at all, you've heard of Mecum Auto Auctions. Yep. Nick and his team have worked really hard, and he actually is now an auctioneer for Mecum, so that's really fun. They are awesome. They will be back this year. We have 24 live auction packages, as well as over 100 silent auction packages.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
So with the YMCA, it's a fundraising effort.
Yes.
And I was surprised to hear that it's for scholarships. I have never heard that for YMCA. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. So it's called Membership for All. And basically, we want to ensure that nobody is turned away from the Y due to an inability to pay. And, we were just talking before the show about this economy, right? I mean, it's tough, and it's so important that kids have a safe place to go after school, that they can stay active through youth sports. We have different membership levels. One of them is a single parent membership, because we want to make sure that it's especially important for every family to stay active, but when you're a single parent, you need that community. You need that activity. And so Membership for All comes in for anybody who needs that assistance. They can fill out the paperwork. If it's just for youth soccer, that's fine. If it's for a membership, that's fine. We'll kick it in there. And so I think that's what makes the Y really special, and that's where the funds go from those fundraisers. They really help us keep the doors open and provide those opportunities.
Nice.
Yeah.
And wait, obviously with 2 locations in Mattoon and Toledo, is there other upcoming events right now you want to talk about at the Y's having?
So I know that summer is a busy time for youth sports kicking off. Swim lessons, of course. Lytle Pool is going to be open this year.
That's good news, yep.
We're hoping to have our outdoor swim lessons again, and those lessons tend to fill up pretty quickly. So it's a great time to do that. And then we'll have fall soccer again. We have youth basketball. Alex Carey is our sports director, and he's done an amazing job of bringing in new programs for youth and adults. Dodgeball is fun sometimes. We got all kinds of different activities on the sports page there. And then Run for the Bagel, of course, is not too far away. Yeah. Bagel Fest is going to be awesome this year. We got some great artists coming, but Run for the Bagel is really fun. It's been huge for many, many years, and we're looking forward to that in July.
So over the course of your involvement with May Merriment, how have you seen this like impact the community? Like,
oh, that's a great question. Yeah. You know, I came in my first year in 2019 in January, and May Merriment is in May. So it was a very rushed time period. We had a great time. And then, of course, we had the COVID years. And 2020, we had it planned and rocking and ready to go and had to cancel it at the last minute. 2021, we had to do it virtually, and that was tough. And so we were excited to come back. It's been different since we've come back. I think in general, large events are just different than they used to be.
Understand
but
that.
we brought the bands back, and so it's a great opportunity for people to come out and have fun. And we see kind of the generational shift. We still have some of those folks who have been with us from the very beginning for all 36 years of this, but now we get to see some of the younger generations whose kids are in youth sports, and they're coming in and getting tables and participating, and so it's really exciting to see that. And then, of course, Winter Social in Toledo is much different. It's casual, we have a band, we have music, and it's just a great way to see that community come together.
With all the different things you do in the community, is there an average day for you, or is every day different?
Every day is so different, and that really took a lot of getting used to for me. You know, I'm a routine person. I've got to have, and I've got 3 teenagers at home, right? So it took I still get used to it some days. Some days
Yeah.
I have to make sure I'm looking at my calendar, especially on Sundays, and see what the week looks like. But I think it works well for me because it keeps it exciting, kind of keeps me on my toes. And I mentioned all my clients are in very different industries, so it just kind of keeps my brain stimulated. But not really an average day, although I would say every day involves some sort of content creation or development. And most days I'm talking to small business owners. I'm usually on Broadway in Mattoon at some point during the day, taking pictures and talking to folks, and that's what I love doing.
Where'd the name come from? Vita Marketing.
So actually, Vita means my family's Italian,
Okay.
and my maiden name is very Italian, and so I'm not good at naming things. But when I started thinking about this business, I'm like, why? I say I'm an accidental business owner. I never envisioned myself really being so I thought, what is my goal? At that time, I was in a position that wasn't really very fulfilling for me. I was away from my family a lot. I felt like I was missing out on a lot of time with my daughters, and I wanted my life back. I wanted to be able to be with them and make them my first priority again. And so Vita means life. And I thought, what is my goal? My goal is to help these businesses grow and become stronger and more resilient. And so really my first logo actually had 3 leaves because they represented growth and my 3 daughters. And so it means life. I want to get my life back. I want to give business owners their life back, because when you are trying to own and run a business, and like you were talking about, there's so much to know about marketing, right?
Yeah.
Small business owners are the hardest working people
Undoubtedly.
you will ever meet. And so I want to give them some of that time back so that they can have a life outside of their business.
I agree with that one. So
Yeah.
sometimes I forget what my wife looks like.
Right?
It's always that-
You
yeah.
know, I mean,
get it.
especially in that industry. My goodness.
I get it. My family has had restaurants in the past, and it is no small undertaking.
No.
It takes everyone, all hands on deck.
Yes.
And another question for you would be, within the marketing, like how do you start developing a strategy? Do you kind of go with the broad
great
strokes
question.
first, or do you
Yeah.
kind of get down to the nitty gritty with the particulars?
Great question. So now I will say in my case it varies a little bit because I have personal relationships with a lot of my clients prior to even starting, so I kind of know what their hurdles are. But I have a little questionnaire that I give people that asks them, what are the struggles you have had in the past? What are your goals? What problems do you solve for people? Because I think that's where we have to start, right? And then what have you done in the past that has worked, and what have you done that has not worked? And then, of course, we have to decide what is your budget? Like, what do you have to invest? Because you can get really in the weeds.
Ambitious, yeah.
Sure. And so I start with that, and then I do what's called a SWOT analysis. You've probably heard
Yeah.
of that: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So I look at what's happening in the community around them, what's happening with their competition, and then we sit down and we say, okay, I usually give kind of 3 options. This is if you want to do it all. This is best case scenario. Let's get at it. If you want to do some of that, you can do this. Or if you want to just start slowly, we can do this. And depending on the size of the business, we start there. Like I told you, I like to build loyalty around the people. I think social media is still meant to be social. It's about people. So if you're just posting canned content, pictures of things, you're not going to get the reach and engagement you want. People want to see people. They want to hear stories. They want to hear testimonials. They want to feel connected to that business. And so that's where I start and sometimes it's more challenging than others, right? If you have a storage facility or an auto repair shop, it might be harder to come up with those creative ideas than if you have a memory care facility, for example.
Yeah.
Have you come up with people? Do you help with the logos and kind of their theme and any kind of tagline or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, branding.
Yeah, that brand identity. Yeah.
Yeah, I do, and it's interesting. You asked this kind of earlier. When you are a very small agency like I am, you kind of have to become a little bit of a jack of all trades, or at least know how to find those resources for people. And so I used to build the websites myself, and that is very time consuming, and I am not an expert at it. So now I have a great couple great people on board who will build websites for me. When it comes to branding, I will often do that with the client one-on-one. I always say I'm not a professional graphic designer. I can design logos, but if they want like hand-drawn artistic logos, I have a couple graphic designers who are independent contractors who can do that. When I wanted to rebrand my business, though, I had somebody else do it for me because I was too close to it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I couldn't step outside of my own business.
I got you. You can't see the picture. You can't see the painting if you're in it.
Exactly. And
makes
so
perfect
I have
sense.
alternative resources for those businesses if they want somebody with just coming from a different point of view, or if they want to spend a little bit more money, then I have those resources.
Have you ever had like a gigantic challenge you had to overcome for like a downtown Mattoon business that they didn't see that A was the problem and you needed to go to BC? Or I know it's harder to give examples, but
I think that one of the things about small business owners is a lot of us are futuristic thinkers, right? Like we have a lot of ideas. I've met small business owners who start a new business in their head every single day. And so I think for me, the biggest challenge is reining that in with some of my clients without killing the dream. Because I can see from the outside, like, ooh, that's a great idea, but you're still building this side of your business. I like to build something well before we move on to something else. And so I don't want to be a dream killer, but at the same time, I don't want to see them fail. And so I think that's the biggest challenge for me, is saying, like, let's get a great system in place and get to a place where we're comfortable with this line of your business before we move on to something else.
And there's really an added incentive an added bonus for when there's a local marketing company. The fact that you know these places, like you said, you know them before. You've shopped there, you've ate there, you've went there, you've used their services. Because sometimes the bigger outside agencies are only thinking money instead of service. So how do you overcome that?
That's such a good point. And I'll tell you one specific example. I had a great client several years ago, and they had been working with a super bougie, high dollar marketing agency from Miami. They did TV commercials. I mean, this agency flew them down to Miami, and the calls were coming in, right? Unfortunately, none of those calls were actually, this was a law firm, were actually cases that would convert for them, because the marketing felt like Miami style marketing, right? And that's not who they were, and that's not who this community is. And so not only was it a lot less expensive for them to go with someone local, but you kind of have that understanding of what's around you. Now, I will say, like a lot of creative services, there are threats in what I do. AI, a lot of people think, oh, AI makes it easy, I can do it myself. There are agencies that operate almost completely through AI, and so it's less expensive because they're not really creating anything for you personally. One of the reasons I'm not a niche agency. You will find agencies that only focus on one or two industries. They create batches of content and sort of blast those out with your business name and maybe your picture on it, but it's the same for everyone across the country. I find that that's usually not impactful because it doesn't build those relationships that we were talking about, right? It doesn't, people can see, they can feel it.
Yeah, it feels more like a product rather than a solution to a problem. Right. And I get that.
So it is going to be a constant, I don't want to say battle, but that's just going to be one of the aspects of my business always. And I think business owners have to decide what feels right for them. I take it very personally, every one of my clients. I feel like aside from them, no one cares more about their business than I do, because I care about them, and it's also my business's reputation. And so I lose sleep at night just like they do.
I went to a sales training seminar once a long time ago, and it's symbiotic. You both are feeding off each other realistically, because their success leads to your success and vice versa. So
and there's a lot of trust involved in that, right? I think it's the biggest hurdle, but also one of the benefits in a community like this. When you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into building a business, to turn your business's reputation and success over to a third party is scary. I deal with that now. I'm looking for a part-timer, and it is very hard for me to trust someone with what I've built.
He's right here.
Yeah,
he's graduated in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so
I definitely am.
It's an honor. It's an honor to be able to do that.
There you go. Let's go back to May Merriment for just a little bit. Okay, when May Merriment's all over, how do the people at YMCA decide, yes, this was ultra successful, moderately successful, just successful, or maybe not as successful as they wanted? How do you all decide that?
So, I mean, obviously the numbers come into play, right? We always look at, we want to know, first of all, how many people came, because we want this to be a fun event. Did we, how many seats did we fill? Prior to COVID, we were hitting around 400, 420. We've been closer to the 350 range since coming back from COVID. So we continue to try to get people interested and engaged. And then we look at the numbers. How did the silent auction do? How did the live auction do? How were our event expenses? I have to give a shout out to Joy Hupp. She has a business called Marry Me. It's another small business out of Westfield. She does mostly weddings. She has done a phenomenal job helping us decorate for our events the last few years, and has donated, just been so generous to the Y. And so we like to spice it up and add new things. And sometimes we'll do a survey after our events and get that feedback from folks. What did they like and not like? We had a record live auction last year. So we just look for that growth. And we have usually you'll have growth in one area, maybe a little dip in the other area, and so then the next year you try to see what you can do to address those issues.
We're talking to Angela Hampton today from the Mattoon YMCA, as well as Vita Marketing in Mattoon. Gerard, what's next for you?
Yeah, in terms of May Merriment, I was wondering, where can people find more information or just get continual updates as it approaches?
Great. So you can go to mattoonymca.org. And then if you go to the community tab and events, you can find May Merriment there. We also, of course, have a Facebook page for the Y, and you can find the May Merriment event page on Facebook and follow that. This week we are going to drop all of the live auction items so people can start seeing what they're going to have the opportunity to bid on, and there are some really amazing things.
Nice.
Cool. Can you give a small business tip maybe for somebody out there in the small business world, maybe just something that they never thought about? I know we kind of touched on it with the Google My Business, but is there anything else that just you think that people should know? Yeah,
so I would say two parts. Number one, don't try to be everywhere all at once. And we talked a little bit about this. I would rather see a business have a strong, consistent presence on one platform or in one aspect of their marketing than kind of half-butt it in a million different areas. Mm-hmm. And quality over quantity. That is still true in social media. So if you can make one good Facebook post every week, that's a lot better than making 3 really good ones one week and then disappearing for 6 weeks. Have that consistent presence. And what I say is, I know you're busy, but block off, even if it's 2 hours a week, where you put in your calendar, this is my time to focus on my marketing and advertising. Block it off. I don't care if it's 5 to 7 a.m. on Mondays or 10 to midnight on a Wednesday. Put it in your calendar and make it a priority. I see so many small business owners for whom marketing is an afterthought. Yeah. And they may start out strong, and then they're like, wait a second, I'm losing money here. I'm seeing a dip. I need to do some marketing. And then it picks up, and then it dips again. So don't make it an afterthought. Make it a priority. Block off that time and do something consistently.
I would like to see a businesses do that for a half hour a week, but you
have 2 hours. Well, I'll take an hour, but yes.
Yeah, in my promotional communications course, we I think in the literal textbook it says it's going to take at least twice as long as you think it's going to take.
Absolutely.
And that goes for anything, especially amongst creatives, which small business owners are, at heart. You have to dedicate that time and realize that it may seem like a small step initially, but in the long run, it'll help everything else you go. It's I'm not going to try to say that word, but communicative.
Yes.
I knew what you're saying. I wasn't going to try to say it either.
And I think, to your point, especially with social media marketing, I've seen this over the last few years, and it's frustrating and difficult for me as a small business owner. Reels came into play, right? Mm-hmm. So Facebook and Instagram want to compete with TikTok.
YouTube as well with shorts.
And YouTube shorts. And so all of a sudden now, you have to start posting some short form videos if you want your page to continue to be strong. So that's a lot more work for me as a marketer, but a lot of small business owners don't understand why it's so important. And so then I'm like, okay, how do I weigh this? I need to make sure it's valuable. And then I'll tell you from my standpoint, what I see on my clients' social media pages are that they're not really, most often, I can't show you a tangible return on that investment of time and money on those reels. But if we don't do them, then their page doesn't grow the way we want it to. So it's just one of those constantly changing and evolving things.
It's algorithmic, you know. It's determined kind of by like
shift it at any time.
Random. Exactly. It's a little random, and it's an element people have to deal with.
Yes.
Do you suggest that people keep their comments on or off? I mean, that's another big social media question out there.
So I say, unless you are in a dire emergency, keep them on. That engagement makes a big difference. And even I had a case in point last week. I had a client, not from the local area, who had, I think, a disgruntled former employee who left a 1-star Google review. And you got to watch those. Those reviews are very important. If you start to dip below a 3.2 on Google, you're going to lose favor with that algorithm. You respond. You need to have a professional and almost immediate response, because people do look at that.
Do you help people write those?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we want to look at the facts and we want to be fair, but now reviews on Facebook, you can either have those off or on. There's no real in between. I will often turn those off. If a business isn't reliant on those to find people, those are a little bit trickier. So sometimes I'll say, if it's not doing so well, you can turn those off. But comments, unless you're getting profanity and arguing and infighting, I leave them on. I think that it helps engagement, and it's good for those business owners to be in there and moderate.
We're about out of time. Anything you want to ask, Trump?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to add, and as an analyst, having those comments on, those are the tools that you use to kind of inform your goals. And you were talking about goals earlier, and I think it's really important that you help businesses make actionable goals and be able to actually take the steps to achieve what they want to do.
Right.
And it was on talking to you. I don't really have much more.
Well, thanks.
All right. How about some rapid fire questions real quick?
Okay.
Coffee drinker?
No tea.
Hobby?
Watching track meets right now.
Favorite singer?
Miranda Lambert.
Oh, good one. Movie you've seen the most?
Oh, Sweet Home Alabama.
All-time favorite TV show?
I like The Middle, and I like Parks and Rec.
Most famous person you've ever met? Last question.
Britney Spears.
There you go. Well, thank you for being here. Have a great day. We are
WEIU.